Chichofka. I'm an international board certified lactation consultant working with Jan's Medical Supply to provide you increased access to breastfeeding education. If you follow the Jan's Medical Supply ramp sign page, that is where I put all of my breastfeeding content on. And you may have noticed that we've been talking a lot about bottles. So over the last month, we've been doing a bottle feeding saga, just talking about all the different things that can kind of go on when you're bottle feeding, the hurdles, tips, tricks, you name it. So this video is definitely going to coincide with that video. It's all about pace feeding. So pace feeding is a strategic way to bottle feed your breastfed baby. This method or technique of bottle feeding really helps you seamlessly transition from breast to bottle back and forth without much issue. It makes bottle feeding just about as hard as breastfeeding. So previously, years ago, we had always heard the term nipple confusion, that if you give a different nipple that's not yours, the baby will get confused with the shape and not want yours. They'll prefer the other nipple versus yours. That may be a bottle or a pacifier. And now in the recent years, with more study, more education surrounding lactation, we have found out that that's actually not the case. That's a myth. That is outdated information. It's not nipple confusion. It is flow preference. Infants, if given the choice, will always take the path of least resistance. They want to do what's easier. That will always be their preference. So we want to make sure that bottle feeding is not easier than breastfeeding. That is how we really get a baby who can do both. A combo fed baby. They can go bottle to breast without much issues. So pace feeding is really going to get into that to help you also achieve that, because we know a lot of moms have their hands full, or maybe they just choose to bottle feed or exclusively pump. All is okay. We want to give you options so you can decide what you want to do with your baby. This is just a tool to make it easier. So pace feeding. We know that the way that an infant sucks at the bottle, it's called sucking. So they're using different oral muscles versus at the breast where they're suckling. So they are different sets of skills, and it is almost a learned behavior. If we had a older baby, let's say a 3-month-old baby who never really took a bottle. So to bottle feed, it's going to be a learned behavior. And I will say with this learned behavior that often you will find success with frequent, often exposure to this. But that's a different video. We're going to talk about how do we pace feed. We want to make bottle feeding just as hard as breastfeeding. That way there's no pace difference. So it's really, really easy to overfeed, feed too much, feed too quickly with the bottle. So we want to pace it to be where babies are getting about the same amount of milk at the same rate at the breast to the bottle. We want to make it the same. So if we have a baby who, let's say, they have a bottle preference, they prefer the bottle to the breast. If we make bottle feeding harder than the breast, they will take the path of least resistance and likely come back to the breast. So just a couple tips there. Now, how do we do this? Okay, so this way of feeding is what we've seen in the movies. This is what we all associate with bottle feeding and baby, okay? Baby's laying down in the crook of your arm, got a bottle, bottle's upside down. Actually, so what happens here, this is kind of gravity feeding. So for most bottles, when they're completely upside down, they will begin linking with any amount of pressure. So we're not even suckling here. This is just a little bit of pressure. Think of it as tongue. Oh yeah, we are dripping. And this is a slow flow nipple, okay? Well, it's marketed as a slow flow nipple. The even bottle, it's not very slow flow, but it's called slow flow. But if you put any amount of pressure, you don't even need to suck, you're going to see milk start spraying. And that never is going to happen with your breast, okay? We're not going to just bend over and our breasts start leaking. So this is very much gravity feeding when we're feeding like this. And baby doesn't even really need to suck. They just have to put a little bit of pressure with their tongue on the bottle and they're getting milk. And now they will always suck because that provides comfort and satisfaction for them to suck. So when they are sucking, even with a little bit of pressure, they're getting a lot of milk at a very fast rate that's unrealistic with what they would get at the breast. usually at the breast, they're gonna suckle actively for a minute or two before they trigger the milk ejection reflex, and that's where they get large volumes. So we want to make sure that they still have patience to begin breastfeeding, wait a minute or two, and then they get the large volumes of milk. So we want to just maintain that patience level from bottle to breast. So instead of doing it like this where it's gravity feeding, where they basically have to swallow or choke because it's coming out so fast and they can't pace it, we want to change it away from gravity feeding to intuitive feeding, so the baby controls the flow. And then we give breaks. So if baby feels stressed, maybe there's so much milk coming and they're having a hard time, swallow, breathe, that might be disorganized with young babies. This will help with all of that. So instead of like what we see in the movies, we are very much going to switch it up. We're going to bring it up. Baby's gonna sit up like a real little person. And when they are upright, we're not having the bottle down. And instead of it being upside down, we are then going to have it horizontal. And so we want the tip of the nipple to have milk in it. And the tip of the nipple can completely have milk in the whole tip. But this area up top, see, it's still leaking even though it's horizontal. So this little spot up here, we wanna have no milk in it, because if it's completely submerged with milk in the whole nipple, now we got a higher flow, right? So we're trying to manipulate the flow. And remember, this is a slow flow nipple. There is more slow flow nipples. I'll get to that later. But as you can see, this is very much still dripping. And this is kind of the issues that we are facing. How do we get a bottle to do what the breast does? You know what I mean? This is very much not what the breast is doing. It just sitting here leaking and waiting for the baby to put a little bit of pressure, and then that doesn't happen with the breast most of the time. So when we have it horizontal and where we have some space where the milk is not completely overflowing at the top part of the bottle here, you're in business, okay? So we wanna bridge everything we're doing at the breast and the bottle. So basically trying to make it the exact same. So I would highly encourage you, whether, you know, mom's doing it, grandma, sibling, husband, partner, friend, babysitter, you name it, do this. Make them breastfeed at the bottom. So I would encourage you to get a deep latch, to go ahead and tickle the tip of their nose to their chin, back and forth until you see that big mouth open like a baby bird, a hamburger mouth. They have a nice wide mouth, then bring them to the bottom. And then they're going to latch and start suckling. And you're gonna notice at first they're gonna suck very fast. Suck, 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 pause. Suck, 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 pause. Suck, 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 swallow, pause. And then probably a few minutes down the road, you're gonna see more pauses. Suck, pause, suck, pause. And that's normal. So they are very active at first and then they slow down. So I wouldn't say every single time, but every couple minutes, especially if you see a long pause, you can either tilt the bottle down and give them a break and let them decide if they want to, you know, relatch and have more, or that would be a good time to burp and give baby a second to digest and give them the option of eating more or not. So when we're bottle feeding, upside down gravity feeding, it can get to the point, especially if you have a bottle like this that is really, really dripping when they're upside down. And when that happens, babies cannot just stop the milk from flowing because it's automatic, especially with the gravity. So they will very much fall into a position probably a few times throughout the feed where they are almost in distress, where they have to hurry, suck, swallow, breathe. And if they're not swallowing fast enough to the bottle, they may feel like they're choking. So that's how overfeeding happens, because the baby can't say no. The baby can't just pause and breathe for a minute. They have to keep sucking and drink the whole bottle before they can finally breathe without the liquid in their mouth. So putting baby upright, horizontal bottle feeding kind of changes all of that. So that's why we want to give baby a break and see if they will take the bottle again, and while they're not under the stress of swallow or choke. So that is definitely the overstep. Every few minutes, take a break, give baby an option to come back. And that way, this is intuitive feeding. They are leading the feed. They decide if they want more or not. And giving them a burp in those breaks, that's good. And you'll very much be able to see if baby wants to eat at the bottle or not. And so when we have baby upright like this in this position, I like this best for older babies who have somewhat of head control, posture support. So if we try doing this with a newborn, they're gonna be very floppy, their head's gonna be flopping around. So this may not be the most comfortable feeling for the caregiver with really young babies or small babies. So another position idea is you can have baby, so if you're laying down, or you can even do it on the arm of a couch or a table, you can have your head supporting their neck and shoulders right here, and baby's body can be on the length of your arm. They could be on a table or a pillow in your lap, however you want to do it, but you can definitely do it or baby's horizontal themselves, and same idea. You just want the bottle wherever the baby is horizontal, and we can very much do it like this, and then take a break, bring baby up, give it a chance. Or I've seen parents where they have a pillow underneath their stomach and baby's in their stomach like this, and that's how they do it if they don't want to do it on their arm or somewhere else. So there's a couple options as far as positioning. Follow what feels comfortable for you, where you got baby supported well and you're not worried about where their body is. So just as a general guide, play with it, but have them lay on their side for little babies, and then you can bring them up completely straight for older babies. I also have a clip sent in that I'm going to share with you guys so you can physically see what this looks like with a baby. She's a great friend of mine. Her name's Brooke Howry. She's a military lactation counselor, and she's also an active duty member. And this is the way that she bottle feeds her baby, and has her care providers bottle feed her baby so that she can maintain breastfeeding when she's at home and pace bottle feeding when she's at work. So we'll get into that in the slow flow portion of this next. Okay, so here is that slow flow portion to our video. If you have been following what we're doing on the Ramsign Jan's Medical Supply page, you will have seen the post where I talked about the shape of the nipples and what is truly best for a breastfed baby. So I very much talked about how, we see these wide bottles just like this one. This is the Philips Avent bottle, and this one is marketed as being most like the breast. It's a breast shaped nipple. I do not like the shapes of these ones or any of them that kind of look similar to this, because they have such a wide base that it's really hard for the baby to latch deeply. So they're only ever going to be able to latch at the tip of the nipple because this is too wide, and the material, the silicone, is too firm for them to latch deeply. So we're always going to see baby's mouth right at the tip of the nipple and never any deeper. And that can translate into baby also latching just at the tip of a mom's nipple, which can be damaging. So we're trying to avoid that, and we're trying to reinforce behaviors at the bottle that would be positive and not damaging at the breast. So something where we have a narrow based nipple would be better. And I really like the ones that have a sloped shape where it's almost like a clear slope. This one's a little curved, but not bad at all. So this one, because it does have a marginally sloped shape, you know, this one is very much distinct base, distinct nipple. This one is very sloped, tapered almost. So we have the tip of the nipple and it slopes into the base, and the base is narrow. So for babies with a bottle like this, they would be latching not just on the tip, but at the base. And that's exactly what we want them to be doing also at the breast. So that is a good behavior to reinforce. I do think the shape matters, and also the flow matters. So these are both called, marketed as slow flow nipples for newborns. So if we hold them upside down, completely upside down, we're gonna notice that they start to drip. And we're gonna give it a little bit of time. As you can see, one is clearly dripping, one is not. They're both being held completely upside down, newborn nipples, marketed as slow flow. Just because it is slow flow does not always mean it actually is. You're gonna have to test it out, read some reviews about what bottle truly is a slow flow nipple. And my fingers are not at the tip of the nipples. I'm not using any pressure. This is just gravity. And this is also what happens when we are gravity feeding. So that's where the bottle is completely upside down, baby's laying down, instead of pace feeding and intuitive feeding. So as we can see, one is a slow flow nipple, and well, one is not. Now let's see what happens if I put a little pressure on both of them. I'm putting the same amount of pressure on both of them. Really digging in there. Okay, we finally got a leak on this one. Well, there you go. That is very much with most bottles. If you liked this bottle video on the slow flow and the rates, I can do more. We got more. We can go over more, but I would like to advertise. I would not say the Advent Phillips bottle is designed for breastfed babies. This one would be a lot better.